All right, good evening. Glad you're here. I think most of you are from Geyer Springs. You know who I am. If you're not, I'm the lead pastor here at Geyer Springs, Dave Huey. I want to tell you why we're here tonight. Several months ago, I laugh about some of the ministry things we do here at Geyer Springs for the community. I always tell people we don't have to pray about it. God just drops it in our lap. And this was one of those things we hadn't really thought much about what we could do to help people educationally. And God just kind of dropped in our lap, and as we heard about the concept of micro school, we got really excited about that, began to meet some folks that you're going to hear from tonight. Our main objective is just, number one, to provide people options. Options are good. If you were here Sunday, you heard me say my kids went homeschool, private school, public school. All three of them did all those things. And it was just a matter of every year us praying, what does this child need, and getting them in the right spot. So options are great. And of course, the other thing for us, obviously, as a church is giving those who would like it the opportunity to have a Christ-centered education. We've got some great, at Geyer Springs, we have some great public school educators that walk with God, that love kids, but their hands are sometimes tied. And some parents want more than they can give the public school. Some parents have children that either maybe have some shortcomings in their abilities for learning, or kids that are advanced. I had a child that was very bored in the classroom because he just was ahead and needed to be ahead. So there's a lot of reasons to have those options, and Courage Schools is one of the things we got excited about. One thing we really thought about was the fact that 54 years ago, we started a weekday center here because parents wanted their kids to have a good jump start on their education. They wanted their kids to be in an environment where they were learning about the Bible, learning about the Lord. And one of the things that really got my attention as we began to talk about this option was when I come, typically in May is the graduations, right? When I've come in May to the weekday center graduations in this room, and I see all these kids up here, one of the things they do is they share a Bible verse for every letter of the alphabet. It's like, wow, look what's been invested in them. And then when they're done here, they're done. So I thought, if we made that investment in giving kids a Christian education, maybe we could take it a little bit further. And so that's why we're here tonight, just to offer the option. This option doesn't work for everybody. That's fine. It's just an opportunity for you to hear about the option and be able to pray about if that works for your family. So I'm going to hand it over to Kurt and Jade as they kind of lay out, over here, as they lay out for you kind of a vision of what this micro school looks like.
Thank you, Dave. We appreciate it. My name is Kurt Unruh, and this is my wife, Jade Unruh. We're thrilled to be with you tonight and grateful that we have the opportunity to share a little bit about the model of education that we're pursuing on behalf of churches all over the country and perhaps all over the world. Really because of the journey that we've been on as a family, and just to be quick and tell you about that. About 20 years ago, as we were considering education for our kids, just like you as parents, and we were raised in a faith-filled home, and we wanted to pass that legacy on to our children. So we said, we want to make sure that Christ is in our house, and before our kids went to school or were of school age, we felt that meant, we need to be part of a Bible-believing church and be regular there in attendance and in mission. We need to have God's Word alive in our home and to be in prayer and those kinds of things, and that's what we were focused on. Scripture's pretty clear that parents should raise up their child in the nurture and the instruction of the Lord, and we wanted to take that task seriously. When the oldest of our 5 children then was ready to move into school, to be honest, we got a little cold feet about who else might be involved in their education as well. And I was the youngest of 5, Jade's the youngest in her family as well, and we had examples before us, and so we decided to take on a homeschool journey, or I should say Jade decided to take on the homeschool journey, as opposed to me. In the meantime, I was also being involved and had the privilege of starting a Christian school in Colorado. It was a large 9 through 12 private Christian school, and I was what a privilege it was to be able to be part of that founding and to start that private school. During that time that I was there, we also led mission trips with our students, and God brought us to Peru, and we saw what real poverty looks like. We have poverty for sure in this country, but nothing that we'd ever experienced before. And we knew that education was a pathway for these students as well that might be able to break that cycle, and God really touched our hearts for the marginalized and the poor. Along the way as well, I was able to be involved with the Associations of Christian Schools International and got to really travel the world looking at different school models all over the world and et cetera. And the one thing that was prevalent and was really clear to us that there's just not enough access to Christian schooling worldwide. There really isn't. And so we wanted to say we should be doing something about that. So I transitioned from my job in leading a school, and with several other school administrators across the country, we began an educational consulting firm called NextEd. And NextEd serves private Christian schools in the K-12 space through governance and executive coaching and school search and those kind of things. And the Courage School model has been birthed out of that group, and we're excited to tell you about it a little bit about it tonight.
So as Kurt mentioned, our passion for this work really started with our own kids. We found that there was really no greater joy than watching our kids discover their gifts and to use those gifts to pursue God's calling in their lives. We believe that their education in a Jesus-centered environment played a very important role in that. We also believe that what we've seen in our kids' lives should and can be available to every child. The heart behind Courage Schools is this: for every student to discover their God-given purpose and courageously pursue it. But sadly, as Kurt mentioned, only 1% of students around the world have access to a Jesus-centered education, and that's what our eyes were open to. Our hearts are burdened for the amount of children around the world that cannot attend Christian schools. But our vision is big. We want Christian education to be available to every family that wants their kids to be in a Christian environment for their schooling.
So to kind of pursue this mission that we believe the Lord has given us, and by the way, we're not the first. The type of model that we're going to describe to you has really been around for a long, long period of time. In fact, it was the original model of education, to be honest, where a scholar would pass on their knowledge and information to a pupil in more of a one-on-one or a one-on-small group kind of mentality. And even when this country was founded and first school laws were developed, as you can understand and remember, not remember personally, but go back into your history and know, this really kind of existed in the one-room schoolhouse, where multiple students of many grades were being educated in the same way, and a teacher would know them and know their individual needs and circle around the room and those kind of things. And that's kind of the model that we're talking about today in terms of a micro school. But really what we're distinguishing between is the batching system of education to a tailored system of education. Because our two pillars that the Courage School model really stands on is tailored and truthful. So let me tell you a little bit about what tailored means. But first of all, what is batching? We all know what batching looks like. It's necessary and important. It's how you do volume. 24 kids in a classroom, a teacher up front, a set of curriculum, a whiteboard, or a teaching presence, and et cetera. Those students are either are distinguished or distributed by grade or maybe by subject, and they're all learning at the same time, pretty much the same pace, same materials, and trying to achieve a certain set of outcomes. And really that's been the model of education for the last 150 years, and absolutely nothing wrong with it. Most of us, I can see in this room, are products of that type of an educational system, and et cetera. But there's also other options today, especially with the advent of technology and those kind of things, where we want to tailor education. And so that's really what we're seeking to do in the Courage School model, is to come alongside in a much smaller unit, 20 to 40 to 60 students perhaps in a school, and customize their education. We believe every student should be on a personalized learning journey, and they can be in this type of a model of education. We know that those 24 kids in that English classroom are not all at the same place, in the same pace, at the same time. We have 5 children. Some of them were rapidly ahead of their peers, and some of them were desperately behind of their students. And so we would look at this model as a way to help address that and look at that. So rather than classroom teachers by subject matter and by grade, we look at a mentor-enabled curriculum. The ultimate goal is that students have agency of their learning. They become not self-taught, but they become command and champion of their learning, and that they, over and over in time, that the teacher or the mentor is becoming less and less necessary as they continue to strive for themselves in terms of their learning options. Therefore, we want it to be a customized learning path, and every kid is on their own journey, so it has to be customized. We're also looking at mastery-based as the outcome rather than what a traditional transcript might be of grades and Carnegie units and those kinds of things. The vast majority of school today is necessarily, because of volume, homework and quizzes lead to unit tests, and then you ultimately get a grade. We'd rather focus on the mastery side of that. So we're not moving forward with the student until they've mastered or have competency in the subject matter, and then they move on at their pace and at their work. This way we don't hold kids back that are ready to move forward more aggressively, and we're also there for the students that need more time. And then finally, we want to really focus on real-life learning and real-life applications. And students have the opportunity to do that in their classwork, but also in the other interests that they have as well. So that's kind of the tailored model. There's much more to say about it, and you can find that on the website, but I'll let Jade tell you about the truthful side.
So the second pillar, even though we're talking about it second, we believe that this is the most important part. Our main focus at Courage Schools is to fill every student with the knowledge of the truth that's found in God's Word. We have 4 parts to this. The first one is discipleship. Imparting God's truth on children's hearts and minds requires daily life-on-life discipleship. And to be a disciple of Jesus is to know and follow his teachings, to model one's life after his, and then teach others to do the same. The second part is biblical worldview. We plan to impart this biblical worldview through Bible courses, chapels, morning devotionals, prayer times, discussions, experiences, etc. Every subject in Courage Schools is approached through the lens of Scripture and is viewed as an opportunity to better know the Lord. The third part is relational. Given that discipleship is primarily relational, we rely on our mentors to partner with the parents and to get to know each child in a deep way and to be a Christian role model to them. It is also our hope that the students and their families will experience a strong community in their Courage School. Finally, purposeful. Being filled with the truth ultimately results in a purposeful life. So when students understand that they're uniquely designed by God and they understand the amazing offer of salvation through Jesus, we believe they'll be motivated to discover their God-given gifts and to use their lives to worship him and to serve others. Bottom line for us is we believe that Jesus in the classroom changes everything.
Yeah, indeed. And so we're seeking to bring together these 3 institutions that really the Lord has helped establish, at least 2 of them for sure, the home and the church. In his scripture, he's very clear that parents are to raise up your children in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And we're reminded in Ephesians that fathers or parents, don't exacerbate your children, but bring them up in the nurture and the instruction of the Lord. And so that we seek to do this with this model and to help come alongside churches to start their own school. And we think these will be micro schools. They'll be small, by nature and by design. Our part of that process is to help curate the curriculum and the resources, to train the mentors, to provide encouragement, and to be a covering for multiple Courage Schools, either in a state or around the country, and then bring them together for shared learning and understanding and those kind of things. So that's the model. We're excited to share it with you, but I'm going to pass it on now, and Lauren's going to tell you a little bit more about how it might work here at Geyer Springs.
Thanks. Yeah, so that's the model, but we want to give you a little bit about what it could look like here. We had a question last time. We've done this is our second round, so you guys are getting a better version of us. We had a question earlier. Someone asked, can we look at other models like this? And the answer is yes. There are other models like this, but this will be the first Courage Schools pilot. And so here's what I would say before I even give you the details. Here's my, it's kind of a joke, but kind of not. Both my parents are here. I'm not going to make too much fun of them, but they're both incredibly type A people. And so their children, we say, are like AA batteries. And so we have to know everything, right? Every detail, every type A thing has to be ironed out for us. This won't be the model for you if you're like that right now. It feels a little crazy right now. It doesn't have to. We have a 5-year-old daughter, and as type A and as crazy as I feel like I need to have all the answers, God willing, she will be in this school in the fall. And so I want you to hear us say, you will be pioneers. We know that. But we are with you, and we are committed to help you as the parents make sure that this is the best option for you and your child. So here's some of the details. We will run Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 3. There will be before and after school availability for your students. Those of you who work full-time and need that, we will work with you. There are also full-time and part-time options for those students, and so we can go over those details. For now, we're starting with kindergarten through 5th grade, with the plan for that to increase in subsequent years. But for this school year, 24-25, we would be looking at kindergarten through 5th grade. There are options to use the Education Freedom Account program for tuition. As I say that, we have recognized that that can be a politically charged conversation. And I am not the expert. Courage Schools is not, and Geyer Springs is not going to make a statement on that. But we do have someone here who is an expert from the Arkansas Reform Alliance. And she's going to talk to you guys for just a few minutes about the LEARNS Act itself, and then how you can use those EFA funds if you so choose to do that. Her name is Laurie Lee, and I'm going to hand it over to her.
Thank you. I'm not sure why it's political. It's about kids. I don't know why it is a politically charged. We don't see it that way. I'm with the Reform Alliance. We're an organization that believes that every child in the state of Arkansas should have access to a world-class education that fits their specific needs. We also believe that parents are the number one deciders of that. If you don't want to make that decision, then you can default to whatever your neighbors or whoever do. But this model, the microschool model, I've been able to witness its effects not only from afar, because it's been used for the last 10 years in places like Florida and Arizona, but also because the Reform Alliance during the COVID helped set up over a dozen microschools throughout the state in some of the poorest areas in our state for 159 children. And the gains that were made were amazing. And it is just an incredible model for those parents who choose to do that. It is not for everyone. Our organization advocates for school choice. That includes public schools. That includes private schools. That includes charter schools, digital schools, home schools, a combination of whatever. And so we were so excited and blessed that Governor Sanders decided to make her stake in the ground here in Arkansas and say education was a priority and offer the families in this state, especially our most struggling financial families, an educational freedom account. This year it's worth just about $6,700. Next year it'll be $6,813 or $31. I'm dyslexic, so I can't remember. I really am. And so just under $7,000. With that, this year, you can pay for private school tuition and fees and uniforms. Next year, it opens up not just to private schools, but it opens up to concepts like the Courage School for microschooling, homeschooling, learning pods. It also, because of that, it expands not just paying for tuition, it pays for computers, it pays for transportation, it pays for therapies and tutoring. We have a little handout here on the stage that gives you all of the things that it will pay for. I think the QR code goes to the application, and if you're interested, I would really encourage you to make sure that you apply sometime very soon. There are 14,000 slots available, and I think we're somewhere around 10. And so go ahead and just apply. The criteria for applying when the Courage School is available, which will be 24-25, include children with special needs as identified through IDEA. If you're not sure what that is, you're probably not in that situation. Children that are in foster care or have ever been in foster care, whether they've been placed or permanently housed. Homeless children. This is one of my favorite because I'm former military. Anybody that has any veteran, reservist, active duty military status. Children entering kindergarten for the first time. Children in D and F school districts. Children that are in level 5 school districts. Children who were previously Succeed Scholarship students. First responders and law enforcement. And again, those are all listed here. So for the 24-25 school year, you have to fit in one of those eligibility criteria. For the 25-26 school year, which would mean school year after next, it's open to every student in the state of Arkansas that is eligible to attend an Arkansas public school. Real quickly about the LEARNS Act, there seems to be a lot of misinformation and a lot of things going around. And I just want to share with you that we are so thankful because this was the very first time and the largest investment in the history of the state of Arkansas in public education. Over $250 million, in addition to what schools were already getting, have been allocated for those schools now. They have given teacher raises, historic teacher raises, that took us from 48th in the nation, 49th in the nation in teacher pay, to in the top 5. Our teachers now have the ability to have a $10,000 bonus for making sure that they're doing what they should with our students. The things that happened in the LEARNS Act are just not the EFAs. It expanded, it took the entire education system from pre-K to 12th grade and did a complete overhaul and said our families, our teachers, and our students are worth the investment that we're going to make in education. And we believe that our parents have the ability, or should have the ability, to make the choices if the school that they're assigned to is not able to serve their child, or if you just wanted a different option for your child. So I would love to answer any questions that you have on the LEARNS Act or the EFAs and share with you some details and some accurate information. And I also, our office phone number's here. I have my personal business card that has my personal cell phone on it, and you're welcome to call me anytime and ask me any questions. And if I don't know the answer, I know within an hour or so I can get you the answer. So that's what I have. Who's that go to?
So I'm Jason Miller. I serve here on staff, and kind of my role is to come alongside the Career School Opportunity and to serve as basically our church liaison. Just want to reiterate just a few things before we get to some Q&A. So if you've got some questions, we'd love to take some time to answer those. We'll do our best to manage that. But I want you to be aware of this. Kurt said earlier, Courage Schools is not starting a school here. Garrett Springs is starting a school here, and we're using the Courage School framework to help us to accomplish that. Our heartbeat is to love our community. Our heartbeat is to come alongside young families and to be proactive in providing an option that both ministers to their need around a Jesus-centered education, as well as tools to equip them and their student to be a disciple maker. We are so very thoughtful about what this might look like for us, and we're looking forward to that. We have a lot of work to do, and part of that work really does start at how many are interested. You've shown up here today to give us an indication of your thoughtfulness, at least to a dialogue and a discussion. Moving forward, we need to know if you really are interested so that we can then begin prepare better plans based around a number of students. That number kind of determines a lot of things. It determines our facility use, it determines our employees, it determines our tuition rates. All those things are still kind of left up in the air until we determine a number. So as you may have questions about some things, we may not quite have all the answers yet, but let me tell you this, we're committed to working hard. We're committed to coming alongside you as parents and to come alongside the mission that's been our church, a very healthy mission, so that together we're accomplishing something rather new, as Lauren said, but something rather unique. Let me tell you, something that I think is really going to be a blessing to a lot of families. And so, but it is not for the faint of heart. We must go boldly and courageously. And if this is the option for you, and this works out for us, let's do it together. But if not, hey, we're all friends here, and that's okay. We're wanting to explore this as a possibility. So with that in mind, we've got some questions. I'll be glad to answer those and or attempt to, but I will repeat your question. This is being recorded, and so some folks who could make it today, we want to make sure they have the right information. Questions? Yeah, if you guys want to jump on stage, that way we don't have to keep popping up. And so if there's a question that I can't answer, then we'll get that to you. Questions? In the back, black shirts. Oh, Miss Lee, hi. Go ahead. Yes. How much is this going to cost per child? That's a great question. We don't have the answer to that yet. Part of that depends on how many children are going to participate. Our heartbeat is to make it as inexpensive as possible. We're not in this school journey as an income resource base for Garrett Springs. That's not our heartbeat. It's not to see how we can provide an income stream. I will tell you, as we've looked at costs based upon how many employees we'll have to receive, and I want to be clear about that too. Our church is going to hire our educators for the Courage School. Some of you may not know, we've got a very healthy weekday center program downstairs with our preschool. The church operates in a fashion that's kind of unique. That preschool is separate in some ways, but uniquely connected. So they're separate financially, but the church hires those teachers. They are our staff. They're part of our staff team. And so we provide quite a bit of, all of the benefits that are offered to those teachers are offered to our team. They are us, we are them. In the same way, in an expanded way, is how Courage Schools will operate. So with that in mind, I think we're looking at it somewhere in the neighborhood of about $8,000 per student per year, taking some LearnZ Act money that may be available, as well as some additional costs. But I can't give you any sort of firm answer to that just yet. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Sure. So here's where our heartbeat is today. Our heartbeat is to hire certified licensed teachers and to pay them at a public school rate. That's our heartbeat. We realize you pay for what you get. We realize part of the challenge in some of our communities around private schools is that there are teachers who are not licensed, not certified, and are being paid at a lower rate. We want to honor as best we can those who are coming alongside this vision. And so with that in mind, we realize that's going to require some great deal of funding, as well as we want to be as picky as possible. And the reason for that is you've given us the opportunity to, you've given us the responsibility and the honor and the privilege to love your kids. We feel like we owe it to you to find the best possible people out there to come alongside us in this journey. So long as their mission matches with our mission, we believe it could be a beautiful partnership in education. Yeah. Questions? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Sure. She wants to drive by at 30 miles an hour and just... No, so what's really unique about our situation is for the last 50 plus years, we've had a great weekday center program that's really kind of going to be a model in some ways to a full-time and a part-time option. I think we've got that on the screen maybe as to what that might look like for us. But as Lauren said in our earlier hour, we are going to mimic as best we can how our preschool weekday center operates. So a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday with a full day or a half day option. And for kindergartners, for our younger ones, full day may not work for them. So we're looking at a half day option for them. I think it's important to know that although we're under some guidance, the reality is, just as we're tailor-making the education for each child, there's some opportunities to come alongside each family and go, hey, listen, we want to make this work for you guys. How can we make that possible? There's no truant officer that's going to come after your family if your child is not there. Well, we've not set those parameters just yet. What we want to do is be responsible with you and to come alongside you as partners to help make the best decision for your family when it comes to education and just when you're there and when you're not there. For some of you, full-time is great, Monday through Friday, 8 to 3. You're really looking forward to that. For others of you, you're not quite ready for that. And so we want to come alongside you in that capacity. Yeah. Mom's involvement? Absolutely. So part of what's unique about Courage Schools is parents can come alongside the work and to be as involved as is needed. And so that's a really unique opportunity too that you don't necessarily get to have in a public school setting. It's one thing to be a classroom mom, which is great and absolutely needed. It's another thing to be invited in the classroom to come alongside as a partner in the work. And you're not just a cupcake bringer, but you are a partner in the work. And so that's a pretty exciting thing that Courage School and this option brings to the table. Question?
Dan Foster. First of all, thank you for the 8:30 start time. It just makes it official what time we'll actually Lori, I think that what Lauren meant by political is that there is a valid perception that when anything comes from government, there's always some kind of string attached. So maybe just address for a minute some of those perceptions, or if there are any conditions or stipulations or provisos, quid pro quos, anything like that.
So that's a great statement. As a very libertarian person myself, I can appreciate that. So the strings attached are every student that receives ESA funding, whether you're a homeschool, private school, micro school student, has to take a test annually every year. That is more rigorous than the public school system. It is annual, starting at kindergarten. It does have to be a nationally normed test. It does not have to be the state's test. There's a list on the Department of Education's website, and that gives a list, I think, of about 13 right now. So it may not be an exhaustive list, so if you know of a nationally normed test that you would like to take, and it's not on that, then you can talk to the Department of Education. The only other string attached is you don't get the money. It's an Amazon portal, if you will. So you get an account and you get to spend the money on pre-approved educational resources. So when the Courage School comes, they will be a service provider, and they will be in the portal, and you will be able to select them as your school of choice, and then the Department of Education will send that funding, the vendor, whoever that is going to be, will send the funding to the Courage School or to Geyer Springs, however you guys have that set up, to do that. Other funding things for especially like homeschool families, those can be reimbursable, but they have to be pre-approved first. So you just can't go out and buy a trampoline and say it's for physical therapy and then submit a receipt. You just can't do that. Now, if you submit a request and say, hey, my kid needs a trampoline for physical therapy, and they approve that, then of course you can do that. I think the politicalness is a little overrated in our organization's eyes, and I believe for this church, this was my home church, by the way, when I was a little girl. I was baptized at Geyer Springs First Baptist Church when it was on Geyer Springs Road. And Lauren and these fine folks, this is about kids. It's about kids finding educations. I mean, I only have 2 children, right? And they're night and day, peanut butter and jelly, you know? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so trying to find an education, and you might put one child in a Courage school and one child in a public school. I mean, we have this happen all the time where families do different things for different kids. And so I think it's a disservice to make it so politically charged, because the conversation should really just be about our kids and about education. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Question, yeah. Will there be a micro school? Will be the cap as to how many kids we'll allow? Yeah, absolutely. I think we're looking at trying to start somewhere in the neighborhood of 25. It's kind of our minimum that we'd like to have. I think we, at that point, helps us be able to make some better decisions. I don't know what that cap looks like. We want to provide as best we can. Our concern in making it too large on the first year is that it's the first year. And so we're very thoughtful about that. I think, and I hate to throw any promises out there, but for us, we want to make sure the pilot year is the best year for all involved, because it's going to be the foundation by which we grow from. Yeah. Selection process into Courage schools. We've not made that determination just yet. That'll be part of the next steps as we move forward into, hey, I'm interested. Can we be invited to the next meeting? And then out of that becomes, okay, listen, we've got 75 people, but we really think, as we've understood, maybe we can only take 60. So then what is our selection process to pare that down? So it's a great question, one that's been undetermined, but one that we'll have to work at should we need to get the answer to that question. Curtis. Sure. So I'm going to repeat some of that back just so we can get it on the recording. How is curriculum selected? When it comes to digital curriculum, what are the safety protocols around digital curriculum to make sure our students are safe? And what was your last question again? How does IDEA play into that? You guys want to answer that last question or get into it?
So IDEA you're talking about for special needs kids? Okay, so for the SPED kids to qualify, they just have to qualify under IDEA. There's no regulation on the school for that. If the parent chooses for the child to go to the school, it's incumbent on the parent to make sure and the school to make sure that child's receiving services. There's a lot of talk and speculation to this gentleman's point about a parent losing or waiving their rights under IDEA when they leave the public school. That's only while they are in a private school or a micro school. If you leave the public school to do a private school or a micro school or homeschool even, you do waive your right to the public school being responsible for your child's services. If you choose to go back to the public school, your rights are immediately reinstated. So you really don't lose them. So, a lot of parents ask us that, and the question is, well, if you're looking at a different school, then perhaps your students' needs are not being met at this time in the first place, so that's why you're looking elsewhere. So that's one of those things. I mean, you can't hold the public school responsible for your child's special needs services while you're in a private school or a micro school. Did that answer your question?
Well, we would certainly allow that to happen at the Courage School. Families would set that up on their own and work through that in scheduling what's happening here at the school. And so therapies are available, but that would happen through the family, not through necessarily the Courage School.
And EFA funding will pay for therapies and tutoring and any of those services that your child would need. Those funds are available to pay for that.
Curriculum. You want to tackle that?
So right now, we are in the process of assessing curriculum. We do not have that exactly set at this point, but obviously our goal is to have Christ-centered curriculum. I will admit that the tricky part is that with the Christian curriculum, they are not quite as advanced in the self-paced and the mastery field, so that's what we are trying to work out, is making sure, because that's what we love about the digital part, which will not be, it's not going to all be digital. They're not going to be sitting on the computer all day, but for about the hour or so, a little bit more, that they will be doing the digital content so that it can be self-paced and it can have that mastery, and like we were alluding to, just the fact that we don't want all the kids to just move on if they're not ready. So if they can go at their own pace, they can, if they don't achieve the competency, the mastery of the content, then our program that we choose the curriculum will hold them back and have them repeat that, and so that we can make sure that they really do understand that content before they move on.
As far as digital security, and that's a great question, one that we'll have to answer and work through. The unique thing about being here at the church is we have some framework in and around digital security here for the property and for our pretty extensive networks. And so that would be something we would work with our network service provider and how we manage security among the digital curriculums. Yeah. Absolutely, and I think we've got a pretty, if you're new to Geyer Springs, we have a pretty extensive security protocols in relationship to how we handle adults and minors, and what do we do with that, what we do within our ministry teams, within our ministry settings, from camps to mission trips to Sunday school to Wednesday night. We're very, very thoughtful about how we would manage that here. I think we would take that same approach into that model as well. that's an area of expertise that I'm a little unaware of in terms of how we manage that from an online curriculum reality. But I think for us, because this is a ministry of our church, we have to take the same kinds of protocols that we take within our students in our student ministry and our kids ministry and apply them here so that we're all operating in the same vein, on the same page. Yeah, we're pretty committed to that. Question over here. Did I see a hand? Ms. Jones. Extracurricular activities and out of classroom learning, how that would play out. That's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to that one.
We have thought quite a bit about that with middle school, high school. Just to be honest, that is where we started when we were looking at Courage schools, and so we're adjusting now to the elementary world, which we're totally excited about. We, of course, want to be able to have field trips and things like that. At the high school and middle school level, we were thinking of having student-led clubs, and I don't know what that would look like at the younger grades, but we definitely want them to have activities outside of school. And one of the advantages of Courage schools that we believe with the flexibility is that they will have the time to really go deep into those they're really extracurricular, but for Courage schools, they're going to be their schooling. And so they'll be able to go deeper into those things that they're interested in. If they need extra time to do gymnastics or, art or things like that, then that's the flexibility that we want to have at Courage schools so they can do those activities.
Good. That's good. Yes. Yeah, all that's on the table. Yeah, all that will happen here. We've got playgrounds here, we've got property here, and so we're looking into how do we manage the activity. I mean, because I was a kid that did not sit well in the classroom, so I needed to run. In fact, I still make my kids just go run and come back. So yes, we're working through that. That's Brad. Sure. Yeah. Was it the chicken or the egg? Did we reach out or did they come to us? Yeah, it's a great question. I think part of, and I'll get to the answer to that question, I think part of our heartbeat has been for the last couple of years, Lord, help us figure out how we serve young families. That's been part of Pastor Dave's and our vision for, really since you became the pastor in 2016. Working through that has kind of been interesting. We've started services. We've recently hired a young adult pastor. We've been engaged in trying to do what we can for young adult ministry. And through our Next Steps initiative and our generosity campaign, part of that was, hey, we want to give back into the community. What does that look like? Well, the Lord didn't give us a lot of clarity on that when we began to think through that. We knew the community was a space we wanted to jump into. We just didn't know what that looked like. As Pastor Dave kind of alluded to earlier, the Lord very quite often just kind of drops things in our lap that kind of matches our vision. And we as a team have the opportunity to think, okay, is this really something we want to pursue? Does this match where we think we want to go? And what's interesting is we're become recently a partner with City Church Network. City Church Network is, this is your spiel, is a network, is an organization that comes alongside churches to help maximize their mission and then the opportunity to work together as a group of churches to serve the community in unique and wonderful ways. So Lauren has been uniquely aligned with us as a church, both as a friend, but also as a City Church Network employee. Through that network, she became aware of the Courage School option being made available here in Arkansas. So because of her connection with us, she's like, I think I've got a church or two that I think might be really interested in that. She called us and said, hey, is this an option? Or why don't we just sit down and have a meeting? And so that's exactly what we did. I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, sat down with Kurt and Jade and just talked through what this possibility might look like. Since that time, we've been praying, thinking, researching, finding more information that's out there, and we feel pretty confident we wanted to start with this information meeting and see if this would be something our community wants to jump into. That'd be about right? Yeah. You got another question? Such a kind guy. Yes, Amy. So, yeah, I think part of this is semantics. A Courage School model, we're going to call what you've typically called a teacher, we're going to call them a mentor. Yeah. And so that mentor is acting as, in some capacity, a teacher. But as those kids are getting older, they're self-directing, they're learning, they're growing. And so that teacher is more of a guide into that curriculum space, not so much a teacher in the most traditional sense. But our heartbeat, again, is to hire the best we can. Hey, Johnny. Lydia. I don't know that we're firm based upon, I mean, the sibling group is an option, right? You've got some other kiddos. So the sixth grader coming in is kind of unique. We're thoughtful of keeping it small, so not opening ourselves too thin, as we kind of discussed earlier. We want that first year to be a good year. I think part of the concern, too, as we get into the older kids, is they've been in this a traditional model, and that could be a difficult transition for them. But every kid's unique, obviously. So I'm not going to commit to your answer. I'm not committing to anything. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What's the mentor-student ratio?
Mentor. I'm going to lean back to you guys on that.
It's going to, if we start with the K-5, it will be most likely in the single digits, just because little kids need more, from that perspective. But when you think about a fully orbed school, a one-room schoolhouse, 60 kids, multiple grades, maybe in the 1 to 12, 1 to 15 range across the entire spectrum. Again, all depending on finances and how the budget works.
Yeah. It's all about the money. Yes. That's correct. That's correct. There's incredible opportunities for the olders to help with youngers and the youngers to learn from the olders. That mentor helps manage that. I've got 4 kids. There's a 10-year gap between all of them, and it's pretty fun to watch them grow together and experience things together in their own way. And many of you guys have multiples like that too. And so I think that's kind of the intent, part of the journey for this opportunity. Joni, sorry, you've reached your limit. Anybody else? Anybody else? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's both. It's both, yeah. I think our commitment is to manage in a very healthy balance, digital curriculum as well as books and activity-based curriculums. Yeah. Yes, question?
So you might be able to answer this. I'm a teacher. I am a high school teacher.
Yeah.
Going back to her question, am I thinking right when the law says something about if you're a homeschool student, the public school in the area is supposed to allow you to participate in extracurricular activities?
Yeah, so there's a Tim Tebow law. And so under this, then a student can pay. This is a great opportunity for public schools, by the way. So you can sell 1/6 of a class. So in my family, we did homeschool, and it was impossible for me to have a chemistry lab. So I would have loved to have purchased that 1/6 hour from the public school to take my kids to the chemistry lab. I can barely speak English, so trying to teach French or Spanish was out of the question, so that would have been great. So the way that the law is now, there's going to be a ton of opportunity to commingle, to coexist, and it's really providing a lot of opportunity, especially for extracurriculars. Yes. 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 And so the micro school students will be applying as homeschool. They will have to fill out an intent to homeschool form. So in the state's eyes, they will be considered a homeschool student. Did that help? Okay. Oh, yes. It really is a unique opportunity. I mean, it really does lift all boats. I mean, if you're a public school teacher, you know in your classroom, what grade did you say you teach?
Well, okay, so I have my doctorate in healthcare education and leadership, and I teach high school anatomy, physiology, and medical profession.
I don't even know what you just said, but let's just say you're a third grade teacher, okay? And you got 24 kids in your class. Anybody had 24 third graders at one time? They're all over the board. There's in 24 kids, you could have one that literally probably needs to be in the first grade or two, and a couple that need to be in the fourth or fifth grade, and then everything in between. And so, I believe, this is not anybody at Geyer Springs talking or Lauren or these guys, I believe we've done a disservice to our teachers for decades, saying all 8-year-olds are going to be in this class, and you got to make sure every one of them come from second grade, get through third grade, and now ready for fourth. That's an impractical. You can tell me to be quiet. It's your church. But it's an impractical thing. We had no other profession on the planet. I mean, look at doctors now. We've got doctors that just look at toenails, right? Not even feet completely. We've subbed out everything. Yeah, I mean, you need to call me because I am for you. And I'm just telling you that when we free up our teachers and allow the students that are not being successful in the public schools to seek different options. And the reason some of them haven't, because their family just don't have the money. They don't have the money. You've got people tell me all the time, we've had school choice in Arkansas forever. Yes, we have for the wealthy. Okay, we've had for the wealthy, or the people that can move into a great neighborhood. We've always had school choice. But for the families that are middle income earners or below, we've never had school choice, ever. And so, imagine if your child needs something that either they can't or won't provide, not being able to move. Now that's cleared up. And I am so thankful. I've been in this 25 years in the state of Arkansas, and I started just like these folks did because my child needed something different, and given my quiet, demure personality, it didn't go over like a lead balloon. But just seeing, if I was a mom struggling as a single mom, making $7 an hour, trying to get my kid into a private school so she could learn to read, how many other moms in Arkansas were like that? So this is great for the state. I know some people it frustrates, and it's you're going to do this, you're going to do that. No, let me just tell you something. In Florida and in Arizona, arguably the two largest school choice states in America, less than 10% of the people are using the programs, and they've been around for two decades. This is not going to be a mass exodus. And our public schools are always, the governor has said this over and over and over again, it should be our first best choice. It's our first best choice. But if it's not working for your kid, you should, as a parent, have another choice. I'll be done now. It's 25 years pent up.
We might have some
It's tough.
toenail doctors coming out of the career school. I don't know. Go ahead.
So there's not a special section. As a homeschool family, if you fall into any of the criteria under this year or next year, you can receive the funds for the 24-25 school year. In the 25-26 school year, every child that is eligible for an Arkansas public school is eligible for an EFA to homeschool, microschool, it doesn't matter, combination of whatever. Now, having said that, there's only the money, again, you're not getting the money. They're not going to send you a $7,000 check, okay? They're going to give you it's not an Amazon card, but like your Amazon gift card. And then you're going to be able to go into a portal, and you're going to be able to choose Courage School. And then if the Geyer Springs folks here supply the Chromebooks, then great. If they don't, then you can spend part of your, $7,800 or $6,800 on a Chromebook. So the expenses will have to be pre-approved. Did I make the trampoline comment in this one or the last one? Okay.
You do.
Yes. And let me just tell you something, if you buy something before getting it approved, it will not be reimbursed. I'm just telling you right now, okay? Because there have been some challenges. So the state of Arkansas is going to be extremely intent on making sure none of this money is misappropriated. So it will have to be, you'll have to do it right. Excuse me?
And a really hard test.
Well, you got to I mean, there's got to be accountability, and I'm for that. I mean, if you're going to take state funds, we got to know that your kid. Now, I will say this, and Kirk made mention of this before, especially in the younger grades. You don't have to, they're not going to say if you're, 6 years old. Is that first grade, 6?
It is.
5 or 6, 6 years old. Then all of a sudden now you got to be on a second grade reading level. We don't even do that to the public schools, right? So you just got to show growth. Right, you got to show growth. If you have a kid that struggles in reading but's great in math, if they're excelling in math and their reading is first grade level and they get out at a 1.5 level, then you've showed growth. If you go 2 or 3 years and your kid's not learning anything and you're a homeschooler, guess what? And good, right? I mean, we don't want people taking state funds and not making sure their kids can read.
That's right. Question. Yeah, that's a great question. No, we've not. But again, part of that determination is based on the interest number, how many people are going to come on. And again, we're committed to consider that. Yeah. Question over here. Sure.
So I'm naturally a pioneer, so I love what you shared and everything. But with it being an unfamiliar model, it's just hard for me to conceptualize the result in my head. So I was just curious if you guys had any kind of success stories or testimonies from families who have been involved with the micro school model that we can kind of lean on, or resource or video, that kind of thing, just so we know what our family has the potential of looking like in, X number of years when our kid graduates.
Sure.
So that's a great question. On our website, you can go on the reformalliance.org, and we have an entire series on micro schools and the 159 students that we helped set up micro schools during the COVID. If you Google micro schools, you're going to come up with all kinds of stuff. It's the Google, good and bad. But there's lots of stories. I mean, there's different models out there. There's a model called Prenda. There's a model called K-Pod. There's a model, there's all kinds. Again, if you want to call our office, I'll be more than happy to share. And there's personal testimonies on there. But, this guy right here was AC something and saw all the things. So he knows things. So,
I would also add 2 things. Our testimonies are children, and I know that doesn't necessarily mean much to you guys, but they really were and are our inspiration to this model. Our kids are not gifted learners. They are just normal kids, and actually my youngest struggles with dyslexia. And so that we really did this model with our kids. We didn't even know we were doing it. But they are doing well. They've gone on to school. They have done college in less time than most kids just because of the way they were schooled, and they had the time to just spend on and go deep on the things they were interested in. So second would be Mastery Transcript Consortium. That is our partner, and that is really significant in the later years because that's the transcript that we intend to use for them to apply to colleges. You can go to their website, just Google Mastery Transcript Consortium, and they are having incredible success with this transcript, getting, I think it's over 350 colleges now that have accepted these students it's not based on grades, it's based on mastery. So I would take a look at that as well. And in addition to micro schools have been around for a long time, just not Christian ones, and that's why we're so excited to be able to start this here.
It's good. It's good. It's good. Right.
So we do not have any other Courage schools. We are just, this would be our first. So that's why we're calling you guys the pioneers if you choose to do this. So we are hoping to expand, but this would be the pilot. As far as a day, I mentioned earlier that we will, so let's just talk about kindergartner and first graders. We would have them do their digital content and break that up for their math and for their language arts, their reading. And again, that's because we really love the digital content so they can be at their own pace and they can do the mastery. So that would be about an hour broken up, and then, and this is just, we want Geyer Springs to speak into this, but this is how we vision it. We would have some center times where the mentor would be able to have some one-on-one time with the kids, and they would be able to have some hands-on activities. But we do want the mentors to have some time that if a student is struggling and they're getting feedback from that digital program, that they need to go back and maybe do a hands-on for something that's not making sense to them, the mentor would have time. And of course, we would have a lot of reading at this age, and we love collaborative learning, so we would have some group time together where really the history and the science, they would be brought together with a great curriculum that would be literature-based. And in addition, we've brought up PE and art and music, and of course they would have Bible class. We really vision that as probably all of them together, getting in the Word deep and having a lot of time to, you know, even praise and worship. We've talked about, I mentioned chapels. We would probably have that once a week, but again, we would also just be collaborating with Geyer Springs and see how they vision it, because they know their kids. So we're excited to hear from them.
Question? Sure. Well, as I mentioned earlier, all mentors will be essentially Geyer Springs staff, so they would have to abide by, our statement of faith, our statement of beliefs. We would walk through testimonies. We would make sure that they line up with where we are and how we operate. What's that? Yeah, it'd be an application process. We'd walk through interviews, that kind of reality. Yeah. I'm gonna take 2 more questions. Go ahead.
We're in Colorado. Yeah, south of Denver area. This is the first Courage School location, correct? That's correct. You know, what Courage Schools is, and we didn't talk about this, we just have so much information to try to get through, but we're serving as kind of the network umbrella, if you will, of the model, and our goal is to unite with dozens of churches around the country or in a singular state or et cetera. So we're starting here with Arkansas because of some of the funding opportunities that are available here to families quickly and to be able to get that in. But we are working with the Association of Christian Schools International to be the network accreditation body for all Courage Schools opportunities as well, so that we would provide the accreditation side of the equation, the curating of the resources, the training and onboarding of mentors to the model, alongside with our church partners that we're working with, and then ultimately a real collaborative spirit of site directors at the multiplicity of Courage Schools and mentors and teachers in the various Courage Schools working together to bring best practices. So we really envision a whole ecosystem of these schools, birthed through churches, working together and working with one another.
So we're right now in the process of turning vision into reality.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you asking the questions for her now? Is that okay? Okay. Okay. I just want to know. Okay.
if you want to count our homeschool as a Courage school, that is where it started. But last fall, we actually intended on starting in Colorado. And the Lord just really did open up churches there, we thought, and found out that actually they were really looking for people. They wanted to open their churches and have schools, but they really wanted us to run their schools. And that is not our vision. Our vision is we want the ownership of the school to be in the hands of the church because, again, they know their people, they know their community. We know that they're going to do the best job at that. So the Lord indirectly brought us to Arkansas, and we are so excited about that. But our vision has been around, it has been slowly growing with our own children, but we have been working on Courage Schools and the model for about 2.5 years now.
And I think it's important to, go ahead, Kurt.
I was just going to add, we are also working with 2 other churches here in the state of Arkansas as well. And so Lauren is really kind of our state representative, our regional director, if you will, for Courage Schools. And so she's learning a lot, and we're learning a lot together and working that through. But God willing, we'd have more than one location next year. And that's where that ecosystem idea kind of comes together as quickly as we can materialize it.
I think it's important to reiterate, micro schools have been around a long, long time. But again, as we said earlier, this is an opportunity to offer a Christian micro school. And so we're looking into that. It's going to be pretty exciting. Well, listen, we're a little long on time. What we'd like to do moving forward is these guys are going to be right up here to answer questions, to be available to you. If you have questions, this is a great opportunity. These are the experts that are here today. And so we would love for you to be able to interface with them. Before you leave, there are 2 items that you need to pick up on the back credenzas on either side of the exits there. You'll see a postcard. On that postcard, it's got a QR code. And that really is the next step for you. If you've heard today and you're ready, or maybe you're not so much ready, but you'd like more information, this is the way to do that. Click that QR code and send in an application to Courage Schools. That indicates back to our team that you're interested. It helps us know who to invite to that second meeting, whereby out of that we have a better understanding of who's with us, what's going to be required and needed to launch. Things like tuition, class size, those kinds of things can begin to be addressed at that second meeting. But that's the way to do it. Second thing you need to do is pick up one of these flyers, and that's got some Reform Alliance information on there as well. Very, very helpful. And I would encourage you, just as Lori said, to go ahead and start applying for the EFA. That money is going away quickly. We won't want you to miss out on that. Work through that application process. If you've got questions about that process, she's your contact. She'll be glad to sit down with you or receive information and get back with you on how she can serve you as you work through that process. But those are your next steps. So grab those 2 handouts on your way out. These guys are available for questions. I am here for the church side of things. And if you've got additional questions you don't want to answer or ask tonight, feel free to email us, contact us, let us know how we can serve you. And we'll go from there. It's a great question. We would love for you to do that pretty quickly, within the next week or 2. We feel like that's ample time to kind of walk through, hey, what this might look like. Again, you filling out the QR code, both from the EFA and the Geyer Springs, is not a commitment. It's just a reality of taking steps towards that process, but not a commitment. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate you guys, and travel safe.